I didn't think apples were safe. I didn't think chickpeas. I think tomatoes at one point, oranges, sesame, eggs. Yogurt kind of freaked me out. The list just went on and on. The eating disorder that I have struggled with is ARFID, which stands for Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. ARFID is categorized by a lot of things. It has to do with sensory issues. It has to do with fear around food. So a lot of people have fear of choking, fear of throwing up, fear of allergic reaction. It has a lot to do with like texture, the appearance of food, and it also is categorized by a general low interest of food. I did always have anxiety, but it wasn't until my teenage years where my anxiety became very intense and quite debilitating.
I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder when I was 16 years old. There is a link between my diagnosis of ARFID and my diagnosis of OCD. The two have a very high comorbidity rate, which means that if you have one, you often have the other.
If I was stressed out, I wouldn't eat. If I have to eat every single day, 3 meals a day, maybe some snacks for the rest of my life, I would rather die. And that's actually where a lot of my issues came. I knew like, hey, you need to go, you need to eat breakfast. But in my brain and in my stomach, I just kind of would be like, but I don't want food. It was really unsteady what was safe and what was not safe because it almost seemed like every day it switched. Pasta was like a huge thing. Like I just would gravitate towards it and I knew it was safe. Meats were safe, like beef. I knew a lot of vegetables to me were safe. As far as sensory goes, if it's like really lumpy or if there's multiple textures, there were times where I would be really scared that my throat was going to close up, that I was going to choke, that I was going to throw up. I'd be like, yep, that's it. I'm going to die. In 8th grade, I weighed like 115 pounds. By the time I was a junior in high school, I weighed 100 pounds. So we were trying to get me into a therapy program. They flagged my weight as too low. They told my mom, we think she has an eating disorder. And when I tell you this came as the biggest shock of my life, it truly, truly did. I remember thinking I do not have an eating disorder. It took until I was 17 years old to get a diagnosis just because we didn't realize this was an eating disorder. I received quite extensive treatment. I learned how to eat on a schedule. I did exposures, so they would put like fear food in front of me. My battle with ARFID influenced my everyday life and especially my social life. For my family, it was really difficult to help me with my eating disorder. I'd cancel sleepovers like an hour before. I would leave parties early to come home. My lowest moment would be not wanting to live. And coming from somebody who I love my life, that's really, really scary. And feeling like a failure, what if I don't want to wake up tomorrow?
It was the recovery process that brought so much to the surface, and it was so much to sift through that I experienced this darkness.
For the person who maybe doesn't know that they have an eating disorder, but they know that they're struggling. And I want to be that change in society for somebody with ARFID. I would encourage them to listen, to educate themselves. The first step, I think, of any healthy recovery, it's accepting it.
This is our minds. How's yours?